Hello. We should be live. I don't know. It says someone told me we were live. Oh God, I've just been shaken awake in a shop doorway. Hello, everyone. I'm Yahtzee Crucial. Welcome to the second Windbreakers podcast. I'm joined by Marty Sleever.
Second Windbreakers podcast, as in the second episode or the second wind?
It's just a double winding. Double.
Hello,
double.
everyone.
Stop trying to confuse people. They're already confused because
Hello.
this isn't on the live channel. And Sebastian Ruiz is here as well.
I am here for New Game Plus of the Wind podcast. Yes.
There you go. And
All
we
right.
have a producer now. Eric, thank you so much for being our producer. Eric is the eye in the sky. So
Yes.
everyone give love to
So
Eric.
don't cause no trouble or he'll get you. Just to clarify things for all the wonderful new listeners we've gotten since we started Second Wind, the usual podcast routine is that we'll talk about the topic for the first half and then we'll read out super chats after that. So don't feel like we're ignoring you. If you send super chats and we don't read it out, we're saving them all for later.
Mhm.
So just bear that in mind. But speaking of topics, what were you talking about this week, Marty?
I am very excited. This was a topic suggested by Frost. State of modern game coverage, sort of piggybacking off a recent internet kerfluffle that had to do with an indie game that came out called Spirit Tea, which is sort of a melding of like the vibes of a Spirited Away Miyazaki movie combined with like a Stardew Valley-esque system. It's not that game that was important, but it was a conversation around the idea of influencers and paying YouTubers for coverage versus expecting review coverage for free. So we're kind of going to use that to talk about the current state of video game coverage. Because there's a lot of meat on those bones.
Yes, there was that event, and there was also another little event in which a corporate owner of a major gaming website fired its editor-in-chief, and a bunch of people left to start their own company. And what that means for what audiences actually want from their game reviews these days.
Oh, another company. What?
Yeah, funny that.
That's crazy.
I mean, also the news of Sporting broke that like ReedPop is thinking of getting rid of all of its gaming sites, including Eurogamer and part of Digital Foundry and VGC. So all sorts of not VGC,
Wow, Digital
VGC,
Foundry too.
Yeah, they're part owners of Digital Foundry. So there's just a lot of the media landscape's a very strange place. So yeah, just sort of chatting about all that in the reviews context.
I think it's true. Something I've heard someone say recently is that there's not going to be any new gaming journalism sites in the old sense, are there? No one's going to start one of those now. Because all the stuff like Eurogamer, like GameSpot, all of that,
IGN,
that's all like the old school way of games journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the old Doug Stanhope line, if it didn't exist, would you invent it?
I mean, I might. Maybe it's time to go back into it. But I say, before we get too deep, there's three dudes here with three different backgrounds in the same space, in the same podcast. Why don't we start off with like how we got into this space? We'll start off with you, Yahtzee, with your 16 years. How did you get into what? How'd you become a professional, so to speak?
How'd I become a professional game correspondent?
Sure.
Well,
yeah.
the first step was playing video games my whole life.
Boom. Gaming.
And having a lot of opinions on them. I wrote like a personal blog that occasionally had game reviews for quite a few years. Tried to update it as often as possible. I actually got into print magazine journalism in my early 20s when I wrote a couple of features for Australia's Hyper magazine. But I also dabbled with doing some freelance stuff for certain websites for a while. And then I put out a little video review that I called a fully Ramblematic review on YouTube, which went viral. And then the Escapist came along and offered me a contract to do Zero Punctuation every week for 16 years. So that's how I started.
Dun,
But
dun.
I'd say the important ingredient was having played a hell of a lot of video games and wanting to write about them, even when it wasn't actually my job at the time.
There you go. So you're saying the way in for you was to just do the thing. Just have the experience, have the background, and do the
It's
thing.
surprised how often it comes down to that. It's like if I hear people talk about saying, "Hey, I've decided to make a living writing novels," now all I have to do is write a novel. I would say to them, "You automatically have the wrong attitude there, mate."
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing you have to love doing, so that love can sustain you through the period when you won't be making any money from it, which will probably extend to the end of your life, statistically.
There you go. Yeah, if you love it when like there's no reason to outside of whatever it is, like that's just the best time to get going. All right,
Yeah,
Marty,
basically.
you have been part of a major outlet and
Yeah.
minor outlet. Yeah, how'd you get there?
I started when I was in college. I was the arts and entertainment editor for a school newspaper, and that's when I published my first video game reviews and movie reviews and everything. After college, I moved to San Francisco and wanted to work in some sort of magazine or website, not necessarily video games, but something in sort of media and entertainment. Several years of failed job interviews, and then finally kind of stumbling into an entry-level position at a site that no longer exists called oneup.com, where I started writing guides because if there's one person who's very good at video games and should tell you how to complete them, it's me. And one of my first guides was Dark Souls, when Dark Souls launched at the end of 2011, and it turns out it was very scary. And I was very bad at writing the guides, but everyone's like, you have interesting thoughts on the game itself. And then I transitioned over into just the editorial team. OneUp was purchased by IGN, and I became an editor at IGN and worked there for 5 or 6 years, and then ended up here. So yeah, it's ultimately, I think I have more experience in the kind of quote unquote traditional gaming space, which is a lot of times you're going to hear me kind of go to bat for the bigger sites, because I think a lot of times a lot of misinformation gets thrown around about them, and I can give some firsthand experience for those. But yeah,
it's fun. It's funny you mentioned your IGN review, because I think there was a video of someone doing Dark Souls but using the IGN guides.
And how terrible it was.
Yours. Yeah, I think.
To be fair, it was a wiki. It could have been re-edited several times over. Who knows?
Well, anyway,
Yeah, how about you?
I'm in the in between here, because it does chalk it up to a lot of sort of like your life experience can lend itself to your success. My way here was probably the most untraditional, unorthodox manner, in that I was just kind of wandering around, hitchhiking, kind of homeless. Then I was stuck in Jersey because COVID hit with the big lockdowns, and I was like, well, I need to make money quick here soon. And I figured I always liked editing, but let's make some videos. Let's make some YouTube stuff. So I grew to a 25,000 follower Twitch stream. My YouTube grew to like 50K, and that was all in 3 months. So I did take that traditional path of content creator. And I got to that point where I was like, I want to do video game stuff, but I'm so sick of just doing this same video game. And so that's when I started shopping around. And when I was like, okay, I've never done actual reviews before, so I'm going to go ahead and just try a couple of like reviews. So while I still have that like huge love for making videos and that kind of content, I did almost have to compromise in a way for money, so to speak. And because I couldn't, my stream would just die if I was just like, I'm a variety streamer now. But it's like, no, you can do variety at these review outlets. And as mentioned before, the nice thing about working for a company compared to working for yourself is you know where your paycheck's coming from. And that's what I wanted to get to here. Nothing separates us from content creators and influencers as far as starting. Just do the thing, right? But what in our times now has really gotten us, like, what separates us from, not us versus them, so to speak, but I would even say my old content creator self from my now critic sense. Yahtzee, you mentioned once that you didn't finish The Darkness. And that you hold yourself to different standards now over time. So what are these standards? What is this environment lending itself to that does sort of separate us from, just non-critics, non-reviewers, I suppose?
What is it that separates us from all the influencers who are just personalities and aren't necessarily?
I suppose, yeah. I'll bring an example. So, like, when I was a content creator, there's no code of ethics I had to follow. I could completely skip out on that, or just be unaware, right? So, I could also get stuck in my own bubble because the only people I'm talking to are myself and the fans, so to speak. Whereas at the Escapist, at here, I'm talking with people who have different opinions from my own. So, like, that's the sort of stuff that is offered in a more traditional space compared to, say, a content creator and an influencer.
I suppose that, I guess it is ultimately down to actually knowing what you're talking about versus just having a nice personality and a nice sounding voice. Great that you're the full package, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I guess. Well, let's get back to the original drama around all this, which was
yeah,
Sweet Tea,
it'll
which
flush
not
out.
Sweet
Yeah.
Spirit Tea, which is a title I kind of hate. Never end the first word of the title with the first letter of the second word in the title.
Oh, it's a literal title that you hate.
I mean, is it
You
Spirit
literally
Tea?
dislike the title. No, I gotcha.
Is it Spirit Tea or Spirit Tea?
Spirit
These are
Tea.
the sort of things that annoy me.
Spirity.
It's spirity, yeah.
Because the drama there was that the publisher of the game was getting kind of butthurt that nobody was streaming it. And, I suppose that's a question of fairness because, the world of influencers is a world where someone like PewDiePie or whoever's popular now, Mr. Beast or whoever, can just pick a random game and on their whims ensure the success of that game. And it's nothing to do with the individual merit of the game. It's just whatever appealed to that specific influencer in that moment. And it can be frustrating, I suppose, if you're a video game publisher, trying your hardest on games whose developers work very hard on to get the eyeballs they want, and then being denied it because of the precocious whims of a select elite few. That seems to be the world of influence, marketing.
So this was the publisher, No More Robots, Mike Rose, the head of that company, who published games like Hypnospace Outlaw and Yes, Your Grace and Descenders, which are 3 games I really like. He's really open and transparent about business and the economics of what they publish and deals they make with Game Pass and things like that. His Twitter threads have been super fascinating. And this thread was talking about how after a week or whatever it was, a few weeks, Spirit Tea had made back its money, had recouped its costs. It was a solo developer. So all these good things, but then saying, however, if you go to YouTube, there's not a lot of YouTube coverage. And in fact, he said there is no YouTube coverage, which kind of sucked because there's smaller YouTubers were doing coverage. So that was one thing where I completely disagreed with him. But he said they reached out to several YouTubers that might like a game like this. And their response was all, well, we need to get paid for this. In order for us to cover your game, we need to accept payment for it. And he comes from a background of, wasn't that long ago when the entire internet was on fire because of ethics in games journalism and the idea that the separation of church and state and the idea of going to a place like IGN or GameSpot and being like, well, we're not going to cover the game unless you pay us for it would seem like blasphemy. That would be absolutely legitimately unheard of. Whereas now these influencers, these creators, these people who've developed a cult of personality around them, that is how they make their living, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the problem comes when the audience has a hard time discerning what is a review versus what is a piece of coverage that isn't a review versus what is criticism versus what is sponsored content, which is ostensibly creative advertising.
Well, these are all things
there's a lot here. Yeah.
That's the little shit that needs to get shaked out in the early days of a new form of media, ideally by law.
Yeah.
Saying things like you have to say if this is paid content.
Yeah, hashtag ad and all that stuff. A lot of people don't though.
Well, you got to wait for people. You got to wait for people to actually try to test their limits before you can start legislating this stuff. You need precedent in a court of law.
Mm-hmm.
But it really does seem like. It does seem like there's been a sort of upending of things in that it used to be the case that the publishers were in the privileged position and the journalists would have to come to them and say, oh, please, can we have your games? Oh, please, we would love to cover them. But now it's like there's a million billion games to sell and people trying to sell their games. And it's the media who are in the privileged position saying we're the ones who control the audience. Mm-hmm. And the publishers have to come to us saying, oh, please, play our games for us all to see. Oh, please, we'll be ever so good.
That's what's weird to me, though, because they're in this sense of having all the power and having no power. If you are so powerful that you have all this sway over audiences, why do you need a bit of money from the publisher? You know what I mean? Where ideally, YouTube's the one footing the bill, right? That was part of the discussion, part of the drama that came up is that he's sort of Mike Rowe. Was it Rose?
Rose.
Not Rose. Rose, there it is. That he's kind of shitting on the smaller coverage, but the ones stepping in that are sort of being insulted are the ones saying, oh, that's my livelihood that you're ruining here. Whereas coming from that background as someone who went from homeless to content creator, you don't commit to YouTube when you can't pay your bills.
Yeah.
Like
No.
that's just a weird stance to bring up. Like my rent, because of my rent, I should be getting sponsors. I should be getting paid. No, you shouldn't be YouTubing. You shouldn't be relying on that for your income, basically, so to speak. There also
But
comes
people
down to
do, but
this.
people do make an income from it, and I think
Uh,
as a creative, I'm very invested in people being paid money for their work. So I sort of understand a big YouTuber saying, "Hey, I need to be paid to do this thing on your game," because otherwise, if they don't ask to be paid, that's sort of cheapening the entire industry of
Mhm.
YouTube content creation. So you got to charge money. You got to charge money because then it has value. If you don't charge money, then it has no value. That's just economics.
that's fair, but
Well, and that's like their biggest commodity is their time. If you are a solo creator or you're a creator and you have whatever, an editor or two, um, time is ultimately, and this game came out in the busiest season of the year. This game came out surrounding, Yahtzee was just saying, I wish more people were talking about Talos Principle too. And I just think it came out at a really shitty time when not only are a lot of games coming out over the past month or two, but people are trying to clean up games they missed from earlier in the year. So it's small things slip through the cracks. And I understand if a creator is like, I can either spend my time doing Spirit Tea or Sega is coming to me and saying, we'll give you X thousands of dollars to play Persona 5 Tactica or the new Like a Dragon Gaiden game. I don't know. Financially, it makes more sense to do that other one.
I guess. Gosh, remember when it used to be about just giving exposure to things you liked because you
that
liked them?
yeah.
Which is fine if you could pay your bills at the end of a month.
Oh, the march of progress.
Yeah. I
Which
also
was
think the problem is, again, I said it earlier, but that everyone calling everything a review. The number of times I've heard people say, oh, that extra punctuation review. It's like, well, that's not a review. Or, oh, that cold take review. Well, that wasn't a review. That was like a topic discussion. Or that review. And I'm like, that was a fucking podcast. I don't know how you
It,
thought that was a review, but like,
it's hey, video hesse.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I
but
don't know.
then
Like, what? Sorry, Frost, go ahead.
I was saying, but then also like pushing through to that review, and when they pay, the other thing that was being brought up was like the unbiased nature of a review. Can it be without bias? Can any review be biased, like
Well,
without
there's
bias to
no
begin
It's
with?
art. It's not a
Yeah,
toaster.
no media can be unbiased.
Yeah.
Even the most unbiased news source in the world still has to pick and choose what stories they put out, and
Yeah.
that reflects bias. So you're never
And
not going to be biased in the media. I mean, no, I mean, a perfectly unbiased game review channel would review every single game that comes out, and ain't nobody got the time for that.
imagine what that would look like.
yeah.
It would be
Uh,
literally the only channel on YouTube.
Also, an
It would
unbiased
take up all the
review
space.
would just be a bullet point list of features. It would say
Yeah.
the game takes an average of 30 hours to beat. The game has this many graphics and it has this many sounds. Like that's an unbiased review. Like the idea that someone would want to come to a review and not hear like the history and the background of the person reviewing it through the lens of that thing is baffling to me. Like, what do you want? Like that is staggering to me that like there are a million different people who talk about games on the internet, and the fact that you would get mad at one for projecting part of themselves on the art is it's either you could take this art form seriously and that's how art is critiqued, or we can not take it seriously and it's a product and we review it like a Consumer Report review of a refrigerator.
Oh, I'd buy more games that way. No,
If it
yeah,
was just like fridges.
that is the big question now of it's even
Well,
after a cold take or even after the fact, it's just like, will I enjoy this game? There's this fear that I might not purchase something that I will enjoy, and that's what
all
sort
that,
of brought on
yeah.
this whole thing there.
I mean, all that talk of wanting like an objective, unbiased review, that feels like people expecting the old world of reviewing. People expecting the old magazine reviews and like GameSpot reviews and that sort of thing. People are just wanting like a review score that can support their previous opinions. But I think that all might be like getting shed as we move into the current age of the reviewer, where the reviewer is just random influencers and it's all personality driven rather than objective coverage driven. So I think it's an unspoken agreement between the audience and the personality-driven influencer that they are going to get all their content through the lens of that personality. I think most viewers understand that.
Mhm. I mean, we've done sponsored streams before, Frost and I. We've streamed games before that, and we've been very honest that we were streaming a sponsored game. Like, we played 2 demos back to back, and this was being sponsored by the publisher, and we were being very honest about that. And at the same time, we were talking about the game through the lens of our experiences and saying these things are really neat in the game. And granted, at the same time, you do, if you're being paid for something like that, you do pull your punches, because I'm not going to go in and shit all over a thing I'm being paid to cover.
Or you lean into it even more to try and make up for it.
Yeah, you take the internet historian route.
Yeah, where it's just like, oh, you paid, and I'm not sure if I am pulling back. I'm going to lay into it a little bit more just to make sure. And now you just gone biased both ways.
And then you don't get paid again by that company.
And I'm sure there's lots of publishers that have considered asking to pay me for 0 punctuation review of their game on the expectation that there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Sure, especially a smaller game that you might not cover.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because Josh Strifehaze, if you don't know, he's the big like MMORPG specialist, and he always does the like worst game series, whatever. And I'll be an online paid for their video where it's like you don't have to change anything, we just want to pay for it. And he's like, okay, he did get a bit of shit for that because you trust that he's not going to change any of his views in any way. Do you think this is something reasonable? Say someone with an established style, 16 years, if they go, hey, we don't care what you say, we just want to pay for it.
Well, it's at least some kind of filter. I mean, if the alternative is just you can't review everything, so we just review everything on a whim. Just being exposed to something just because the creator paid you to cover it is as good a way as any than just stumbling into it or playing it on a whim. I mean, as long as that relationship is all made clear up front, and the dude made it clear that he wasn't going to hold back his opinions.
Yeah, see,
I mean, that's where like the weird boundary between like, I don't know, Josh Strifehaze doesn't have like a code of ethics, doesn't write for the New York Times, I assume didn't go to journalism school or anything like that. So does a person like that have to be held to the same? Like, isn't it ultimately like in the eye of the beholder to view whether like how they feel about that?
Well, the only mechanism that can act against that is the audience no longer watching.
Sure.
YouTube is like a purely libertarian society. Hope you're all enjoying it, because this is how it would work in reality.
And the thing that I always get pissed at, there's YouTubers and video essayists and just influencers that I genuinely enjoy, but I hate this myth of the honest review and of the like we've built up a sort of an us versus them, which is everywhere in society. It's in sports, it's in politics, it's in fucking Marvel and DC. But they've built up this idea that traditional games media is corrupt, and you're coming to me because I tell it like it is, but also I'm being paid to play this game. And it's like, that's fine, but don't try to weaponize that bullshit. Like it's
that comes from, I think that's more my background. You two didn't go this route. You almost do have this sort of chip on your shoulder. It's a view I would say is more common for content creators that haven't been proper reviewers, whereas you wouldn't expect it from a reviewer who hasn't been a content creator, so to speak, in that way. I don't know how to get rid of them, but I also figured it'd be a growing scenario for myself.
You have honest reviews?
I did have 2 honest reviews, non-critic ass head ass reviews that I can't delete, and I'll just leave them there for all to see. Where it does come from this angle of like us versus them. They don't know what they're talking about. And even though I figured I was being incredibly unbiased, looking back, I was so biased.
Well, speaking as someone who's occasionally taken the position that they try to be a bit more honest than a sort of a corporate-funded standard GameSpot style review sort of thing, I do think it's true that something like a GameSpot can be held back a bit by certain obligations. I do think it's true. Oh, you got that look on your face,
We're
Marty.
getting in there again. We've argued about this before, but
Yeah,
please,
we've argued over this before. I do think there is a certain amount of restraint in that sort of environment, if only because people won't use really bad language and abortion jokes. And
that is, I will say that
Yeah.
was frowned upon under corporate leadership.
Yeah.
Correct.
yeah. So honesty for some people is just being unfiltered, I suppose.
Sure, right.
Yeah.
So you think it's dishonest if you had to have one less abortion joke?
Yeah, I think a dishonest
Right.
review is just there is like a sense that in the gaming media, which was very sort of bubbled up to the surface during the whole Gamergate thing before that all went to shit, is that gaming media does feel like, at least like in the mainstream sectors, it has a closer relationship to publishers than it does to its audience.
Right. And I think that was it almost does go back to that time. It was Sterling who was our guest last week, left Escape because they were saying you can't go all out on yourself because we still need that working relationship.
Yes.
Right,
So
so-
while no one's getting paid for reviews by big corporate publishers, there is a certain amount of pressure on those outlets by big corporate publishers.
But that pressure is not felt by the critics. In my time at IGN, that pressure was never felt by the critics because there were several layers of protection. And my reviews editor at the time was Dan Stapleton, who's still the reviews editor at IGN, who is got fucking thrown into the fire because of his Starfield review a few months ago. Because I think he gave it a 7 or something, which is just, it's on that scale, it's calling the game good. And so I think people who hated Starfield were mad at him for giving it a 7, and people who loved Starfield were mad at him for giving it a 7. But he, more than anyone I've ever worked with, was a shield of bullshit in an incredible way. So again, I have my own personal biases on this because I spent so much time at IGN with these people, and so I will always go to bat for them. But I understand where you're coming from when it's like, oh, so you're reviewing the new Call of Duty, but also Activision paid to have the entire website skinned in Call of Duty stuff. But those are completely separate entities.
Right. But I'm talking about audience perception.
Sure.
How the audience perceives like there's more of a corporate influence. Like,
and that is really because of the YouTubers who talk about that like honest game review and be like, don't go to them for it, come to me for it.
Just that, but I will say, even when I wasn't involved in the space and talking to other people who aren't involved in the space, it does. That's where I try to think of it from the audience perspective. It doesn't matter if this is my first 0 punctuation and I see Yahtzee was paid for it, but he's changed nothing, but he was paid for it. My mind now, I as a viewer of the review is biased to think he's biased. That's the problem I'm dealing with here.
Right. Yeah.
Is that an uneducated viewer? Is that what that falls on?
Well, the way I care is like reality. The reality of the matter, reality doesn't matter. It is all about perception. If the vast majority of your audience is uneducated to the ways of how games criticism goes, and they should be because not everyone is a reviewer, then it's just the perception we have to deal with. So
and that's what's causing like the stickiness in the Spirity situation.
Yeah.
Because because the influencer reviewers have created this perception that they're purely personality driven, that they're purely acting on their own whims, and that as such being more honest. And then it comes out that they're actually charging money from the game creators to cover their games. That sort of, some people have this sort of little mental record skip when they hear that, when they already have the perception of the YouTuber being the quote unquote more honest outlet. And that's where the whole like debate has been sparked, I suppose.
It is
although
a perception thing.
Although I'm personally on the side of the influencers on this, because I'm an honest internet reviewer.
Are you? I saw what your original video looked like. Your Alan Wake.
Yes.
The last bit near the end there. I'm of the matter where it's like public perception is the important thing there. But then the other thing is I don't think there can be an honest review. Paid coverage, I'm all for. If you're just like, hey, I was paid to you are now marketing. You are not reviews.
Sure.
You are now a billboard. And Wonderbot, who is a big indie influencer, content creator, whatever you want to call it, he says that's what we are. We are billboards. And maybe it feels scummy to some, but that's just what we are. Truth of the matter is, when we get paid, we are not reviewing anything anymore. We are just covering it. We are an ad.
The problem is that definition of review. People lump all that in. People will lump like a drunk tweet and be like, look at that review.
Yeah.
I was like, I was making a joke. I didn't mean it.
Right. So ultimately, it comes down to transparency. And ultimately, the only way that can be assured is through legislation of the as yet wild, lawless days of frontier new media.
Yeah.
With it, I don't think you can be 100% understood, but you can do your best to be clear at all times. So clear that anyone else, if they get the wrong idea, someone else can go, you're stupid. So like me, maybe this is too much. If it's paid and sponsored, I want it so if you scrub at any point in a video, it says ad. You
like
know,
it should be like an overlay, like
an overlay the whole time. And I want clarity. That's all I can ask for.
Yeah, I suppose when you get right down to it, just be as clear as possible is probably the best advice, because even without some kind of body legislating that, the audience response and the hate mobs in the comments are a pretty strong motivation to be as clear as possible in the first place.
What do you guys look for in reviews? Not your own reviews, but like if you consume written review, if you even do consume written reviews, video reviews, that kind of thing. Because for me, it is before I've played a game, all I want is someone to shine a spotlight on something I might have not known about. Like if I know I'm going to play the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I don't need to read a single review before I go in. Like I know I'm going to play this. I love it when reviews or coverage or streams, or even if it's sponsored streams, shine a light on something I didn't know existed. Shine a light on small games like Island Song or American Arcadia, which we were talking about earlier, or In Stars and Time, a really great new little time loop indie game. And then when I know that thing exists, I will be like, okay, I will play this. And then after I consume things, I love devouring coverage. Like when I finish a game, every time I finished a Silent Hill game on my streams, I would be like, I want to consume as much as I can about Silent Hill 1 to see what everyone thought of it. Thought of it back then, thinks of it now. Same thing with Silent Hill 2. But I don't know. Like I don't use reviews to sort of dictate what I buy and what I spend my time on. I don't know. Do you guys?
No, well, I tend not to go to reviews for recommendations just because I'm going to be looking into every single game anyway, because that's my job. And usually I rely on, recommendations from you guys or sort of direct things in the comments. For people who I might have an expectation know at least a bit about me and understand the sort of things I would really like and be interested in. As for what I look for when I'm consuming YouTube review content, I like deep dives and analyses into things I'm already familiar with. I want to listen to something like Design Doc or Game Maker's Toolkit or something like White Light, going into in-depth explanations of stories of well-known games. But actually, the other thing I really like is something like Ross Scott's Game Dungeon, because every game he's done on that I have never heard of. And it's he doesn't necessarily recommend the games, but it's just interesting to see what he picks, because you can tell he's not picking games based on what would feed the algorithm.
Yeah, I like that. I like finding people who give a lot of time and energy towards games I didn't know existed in like the 360 era, like some real janky. Like I want some. If someone's like, I spent an hour, I have an hour video essay on Wet. I'm like, yes, I will watch this because I did not realize there was an hour of things to say about Wet. But I would love to see that. Yeah, there's folks like Thor High Heels, who's a YouTuber that I love, who does that kind of stuff.
Even the developers of Wet don't want to talk about Wet for very long.
No, not for a full hour. That's too wet.
I was at a game convention once, and a developer came up saying, "Hey, I worked on Wet. We all hated working on it, and we loved your video."
Oh, poor Wet. There is also that interesting. I guess that also goes into. It feels like when a game, people are always wondering, why do games get critical reappraisals 5-10 years later? And I feel like it's because when a game comes out, everyone jumps in to give their opinion. And you get a lot of people who might not even want to play that kind of game. That might not be their bag. And so you get a big flood of opinions. And then 5 to 10 years later, the only people who are still thinking or talking about this game are the people who like really gelled with it or sought it out. And so you end up getting the more like, not that it's like a better opinion or not, but just like a more like and like curated to people who like this was absolutely in their wheelhouse.
See, that's the thing. I really enjoy writing about games I'm passionate about, whether I really, really like them or really, really hate them.
Yeah.
And when you're consuming coverage of someone who's playing something just because they were paid to, you automatically know they don't have passion for it. That's the problem.
That's what I look for in a review. Knob gags by a cynical Brit speaking a mile a minute or a Midwestern lad waxing poetic about nostalgia. I just want that passion because I am a gamer. I want games that make me feel. And if they don't feel anything more so than it's just a book report, I don't care. I also like dissenting opinions because usually I can see like, okay, they didn't like it because of this. Well, I do enjoy that kind of stuff, so it'll probably be fine for me. That's how I am with like Skill Up, very, very technical lad, love his stuff. But a lot of the times, the things that we feel the same thing. He just enjoys something I don't, or vice versa. And I'm like, this is a great track record that we've established here. So passion being number one, and then two, just I would say almost transparency, so to speak. I guess I want someone who understands themselves, because if they can say, I like games that are la 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 la, and because they're this fast, this felt really slow. And then I go, okay, I gauge myself off of that. Instead of someone that just goes, game is slow, game is fast. I was like, compared to what? Because it's all relative. So I need somebody who can establish themselves. If anything, the more narcissistic, the better. Because if the sun revolves around them, then I can just establish like a frame of reference from that point. So passion and I guess narcissism. That's the other thing.
Well, and
we've figured it out. Passion, transparency, and narcissism. There you go.
I think that transparency is interesting too, because I'm going to be fascinated when, first off, did you read any of the Bloober team updates on Silent Hill 2?
There is like it just makes me depressed.
No, there is like a hostage situation going on. Bloober team released one of those like "we're sorry" images on Twitter, where they were like, "Everything's going great. We would love to tell you about it, but we can't because Konami's the one who will tell you about it." Ooh. And they're like, I'm like, what are we doing here? Are they like trying to be like, Konami, please let us talk? Or being like, hey, when this shits to bed, everyone blame Konami. Remember that terrible Silent Hill Ascension game? So that's fascinating. But with Silent Hill 2, I'm going to be fascinated, Yahtzee, to hear your take on it, knowing your background. And Frost, if that is really your first foray into Silent Hill, I'm going to be fascinated to hear that too. So I want to hear what like, games are weird things. Like I want to know what Tears of the Kingdom is like for someone who has a head injury and plays every Zelda game like me, or someone who's never played a Zelda game. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, someone super like me or super unlike me.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go. Shall we
Did we solve it? Did we solve the internet?
I think we solved it. Well done, everyone. Good job, team.
I can't believe we did it. Yeah, let's go to super chats. Remember, chat, all your super chats in these episodes, they're read in the back portion of the episode, and we got some goodies here. We have some goodies for you.
Sure have. Starting with Dale Mallows, who gave $5 to say, "Good day, gents. Here are you fun words for the week: malarkey, flippity gibbet, and fartlick. Love you guys." I didn't know that word flippity gibbet.
That can't be real. I got red squiggly lines underneath it.
I think it's, as I understand it, it's a fairly archaic sort of Roaring Twenties era word for a sort of loose woman.
Oh, I thought it was your wishy-washy. You're a little, you're flibberty gibbet. Just
someone who's like a little, someone who's a little bit of little bit kooky.
There you go. Also, we had Krashnikov in the tip jar. Welcome back, Krashnikov.
Welcome back indeed. Hang on a second. My chat's rolling up. Okay. Hjorth87 gives 50 Danish kroner. Says, anyone on the team play strategy games? Civilization, Crusader Kings 3, and RimWorld are my comfort games that I play while listening to an audiobook with my wife. Now, strategy is sort of a hard game to define The Game Awards certainly seem to have difficulty with it.
Ah.
There are some games that you'd call strategy, like FTL or XCOM, that I really like. I think most games they call strategy, especially real-time strategy, I have no time for at all. I get very easily overwhelmed.
Do they tend to mean like grand strategy, 4X, and that kind of stuff?
That's the thing, is it's such a broad,
Yeah.
like it runs from 4X to Marvel's Midnight Kissers. Like that's like strategy is that entire spectrum, which is a lot of games.
Do we have anyone who hits any of those? I tend to not. That's like my weaker end. I'm still trying to do a couple of strategy crunches and whatnot.
I'll play a tactics game if it is. I'm like a dog who you need to feed a pill and wrap it in like cheese or peanut butter. So I'm playing Persona 5 Tactica right now. If they didn't have my Persona pals in there, I would never touch this game. But it has my Persona pals, and so I do like playing it.
Well, it's just Mario and Rabbids with Persona wallpaper on it, isn't it?
And I would not play Mario and Rabbids unless my Mario pals were there. If that was just Rabbids.
They're bringing up Civilization, RimWorld, and CK3. That's like a very specific kind that they're asking. I try. I really do. I tried RimWorld. There definitely games exist that just aren't for you. I haven't cracked that code yet.
No,
I know Nick dabbles in some strategy, but Nick is kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to genres. So it's hard to be a hardcore fan of strategy games. You kind of need that to be like your full-time job.
See, I'm fine with turn-based strategy because it means I can have some time to really, really think about it, like in XCOM and Mario and Rabbids. It's just real time because when I'm having to deal with like 5 different parts of the battlefield at once and the enemy are all encroaching without stopping, I can't keep up with it. I get overwhelmed. I want to focus on one person's problems. Yeah, probably why I liked American Arcadia. Actually, it's a game about one person's problems.
What's the best game about one person's problems?
Witcher.
Silent Hill 2.
That is absolutely about one person's problems.
That is. That really is. Good on you.
You got that one in the chamber.
There you go. That's what I always liked about it, you know? They start off with the sort of slightly lame, grand cult wants to take over the world plot in the first game. And the second one is just some twat. Just some twat and his personal issues and his wife.
Love it.
Bucket List gives $2. Says, any thoughts on bringing back Let's Play with Gabe? Oh, for fuck's sake. We really do just need to have a big old banner at the top of the page, don't we?
No, because
unless we keep getting money, in which case...
Yeah, they'll keep paying for it. You take
that. Maybe if we hit a certain amount, we'll bring it back. We won't tell you what that amount is because that's not true. Oh, yeah, transparency. I forgot about that. I forgot that we're not lying. Sorry.
Not lying anymore.
Starting now.
Timbo exclamation mark gives $10. Says, in this discourse, I always bring up Mike Rowe, no relation to the Mike Rowe we were talking about earlier, I think. And don't follow your passion. Blessed few can make it work, but there's no faster way to hate the thing you love than depending on it for a livelihood. I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, I'm sure when I'm having to play, the new Avatar game, that'll probably feel like work. But every now and again, I play new games that remind me why I like games so much, like Obra Dinn, American Arcadia, Talos Principle 2, Shut Up About Sonic Frontiers, or I'll slap you one.
Oh, no.
Or you could, work construction or something like that. That really makes you miss gaming, working in a warehouse.
Has Frost, since when did you join Recap over at the Escapist? That was like a year ago, 6 months ago.
Recap?
I mean,
like Darren.
Yeah. When did you start like regularly?
About
6 months ago, something like that. Did you notice the way that your brain was different watching things once it had to be incorporated into work than beforehand? Because it's hard for me to play or watch anything without thinking of how can I turn this into something for work, and that sucks. Which is why I love sports so much, because I could just get extremely high and just fucking disassociate and be like, hell yeah, the men are hitting each other on the football field, and I don't have to talk about this at all.
Probably not, because I told you that before, where I go in with that I don't care attitude, because I generally don't. And I've also been fortunate enough to where I make a series that's about whatever I think and whatever I care about, so I don't have to look about like, oh, this, how do I turn this, how do I turn that into a bit of money, right?
Monetize your hobbies. That's life as a millennial.
Yeah, that'll do you. But no, I kept away from that. And my advice for content creators, you can do what you want to do, you can do what makes money, or you can be fortunate enough to do the thing that you want to do that happens to give you money. That's why I'm not sure how your views of that go. Yahtzee, you've been doing this for 16 years. Very fortunate to have had such longevity for it.
Well, I think not having too many editorial obligations helps. I still ultimately just play whatever I want to play each week, and then write reviews about it.
Yeah, there is the idea of if you have to choose between two games and one is more popular and you think it'll get more views, is that something that's crosses your mind?
Even if it's not as fun to play, playing the latest and most well-known games is part of the lifestyle of gaming. It gets you clued into the zeitgeist, and that's part of the lifestyle I love. Even if the individual game isn't that good, it's being part of the conversation.
I don't want to talk to those people.
Well, hold your nose, because you're in the media now.
Oh God. Yeah. Onwards.
Max S gives €5. Says, "Heyo, thanks Yahtzee. Your Chizo Mythos games put Lovecraftian stories on the map for me. Now I enjoy them a lot with PNP, Call of Cthulhu. Cheers. Pen and paper, I assume he means there. Well, we're all just passing our influences forward, aren't we?
There you go.
I mean, you could always just read Lovecraft's original stories that influenced me and various other people who influenced me. I think the main influence behind a lot of my horror adventure games was shit like Eternal Darkness on the GameCube.
That's a good one.
What a game.
Is that the one that messes with your volume and all that?
Yeah, that's the one.
I like those, yeah. Feel free to gaslight me in those.
It was one of the first games to explore the concept of the insanity effect in the Lovecraftian video game.
Love it.
Especially in ways that sort of mess with the player and their perception of the game. So they'd have the thing where the volume would go down and there'd be a little volume slider on the screen and you'd think you were sitting on the remote. Or it would pretend to be deleting the save games for a second.
Can't do that now because I haven't seen that volume slider in decades.
No.
It doesn't age well.
And then Wesley Thomas with $5 comes in and says, "Hey, speaking of the Chizo Mythos games, would Second Wind do a long play stream of them, or would that seem too self-congratulatory? I always find it a little bit painful to go back over my old works in detail. I did it once, my old YouTube channel, we called it the Ego Review, and that was a bit of a painful experience, even then.
Also, how many of your games do you think would be quote unquote good for streaming? Because there's certain games if something's real text heavy, that's not necessarily good for streaming unless you're settling in for a lot of reading.
You get the creator's commentary.
Yeah, well, most of them were text heavy, like adventure game, point and click stuff. So yeah,
sure.
I mean, I did make a roguelike called The Consuming Shadow, which would probably be the best quote unquote streamable game.
Until your next game, Starstruck Vagabond, coming next year.
Hey, get it before 6 months have passed and I decided I hate it.
Get it in that 6-month window. Hey, but then 5 years from now, critical reappraisal. So
yeah, from a 1 hour video.
Smask Audio gives $5 and says, "Just wanted to say that I'm thankful this Thanksgiving to have y'all here. Thanks so much to all y'all."
Thank you, Smask. Thank you, Smask.
Brett Fountain gives $4.99 and says, "Thanks for the background noise while I work." Oh, well, that was slightly damning with fine praise, Brett Fountain.
Did you know Brett Fountain created the fountain pen?
Here's some background noise.
Yeah, that's his first super chat, bought and paid for. That's
incredible.
Grand praise.
I think super chats have only been available on this channel for a week.
Yeah. Warrior4356 gives $4.99 and says, saying unbiased reviewed just means without sponsors having editorial influence. Well,
no,
maybe
that's not what.
Maybe in a technical sense, but that's not what the commenters mean when they say they want objective reviews.
That is
of
the
Zelda.
street. That is the street lingo for it. Yeah, but we know it's not. But
it is keep your politics out of my game.
That's a billboard.
Yes.
Keep your wokeness out of my game.
When most
That's
people
what
say
they mean.
unbiased reviews, they mean reviews that agree with me.
That's exactly. Also, fill my ass up in the tip jar. Just filling that ass up with the tip
Thanks,
jar.
fill my ass up. Thanks for filling my tip jar up as well as my ass.
Thank you for filling our asses up.
John Connor gives 5 Canadian and says, will the shorthand for the new series be FR and SR rather than EP and ZP, or is the phonetics not as good? I don't think the phonetics are as good. Personally, I call them internally, I would call them fully RAM and semi-RAM.
Oh, that's good.
I think that's got a bit more of a ring to it.
Yeah. Redeemed himself, him.
Fox D gives $5 says, here's 5 unencumbered dollars. Say whatever you want because it's worked so far. Thank you, you big child molester.
No, don't say that. Don't say that.
Whatever you want. There's a degree.
He said, say whatever I want.
YouTube is policing us.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
Bye, everyone.
We need this money.
All right. Fox D isn't a child molester.
As far as we know.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Extended Club Bex gives $5 and says, I would love to take this podcast more seriously, but it doesn't say 100% honest in the title.
That's our fault.
Well,
and we need our faces going.
Yeah.
It does imply that we break wind, which is honest in a sense.
Yep. Still none of us wearing a windbreaker, even though we claim this is real clothing.
Nick, get out the Shark Robot. Get a windbreaker made.
They're not real.
Well,
There's no such thing.
Windbreakers are real. What?
Well, my dressing gown could probably break wind if you gave it a chance.
Well,
I know Toffee certainly does.
A little farting dog.
Little stinky dog.
Incredible.
Darwin's Dummy gives $10 and says, while I get Yahtz's point that paying just to expose your game to a critic may feel an innocent living, it does provide an opportunity for buyers to AAA big bucks to dominate the public consciousness. Well, they already kind of do, Darwin's Dummy. They've already got all the marketing on their side. They're the ones who are able to put posters on the sides of buses.
Also, it is
you know, at least if an indie game can pay for coverage, that somewhat levels the playing field.
It is also it is not just covering big games because they are paid to cover big games. It is big games generally drawing big traffic because people are interested in them. And if that's how you keep the lights on, like that's why everyone reviews Baldur's Gate and Zelda and Starfield and like, you know, it's kind of a two-way street there. Like I remember people was asking like, IGN, why did you do so much Destiny 2 coverage? And it's like, because at the time you kept clicking on it. Yeah. And so it's like, it's like supply and demand. Like if people stop clicking on stuff, then there's a good chance like you'll get less coverage of it. But if people are still extremely excited about something and clicking into it, even if it's a hate click's a click.
There you go. Blame the audience, not the author. Another theme that comes up in American Arcadia, incidentally.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to put the link to American Arcadia because a lot of people are like, "What the fuck is this game?"
What is this?
All you're talking about it.
Yeah, let me clarify that because I don't think it's a mind-blowing game, American Arcadia. It's a sort of like run to the right cinematic platform in your sort of Little Nightmares vein, where if you do anything other than what the game wants to happen next for the story, then you get instantly failed and have to go back to the save. But I'm on record with my fellow correspondents that it's probably the best ending for a game I've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm very excited to play it. And you said it's relatively short. God knows.
Yeah, it's pretty short. It's a fun story, a fun self-contained story, and it ends as perfectly as you could want such a thing.
Perfect.
So that's my recommendation.
There you go.
Maybe I'll talk about it more in a semi-emblematic in the future sometime.
Semi-ram.
I've like gone to YouTube and I listened to the end credits music for American Arcadia like 3 times this morning.
There you go.
Well,
it's stuck in my head.
See, is that an unbiased review? Or no?
Probably not. Maybe I just like that kind of music. Escapist 2000 gives €10 and says, whenever I see honest review, I expect some trashing of the game, movie, show as the other extreme of the perceived mainstream media shills. So I don't watch those by default.
See, I brought this up it was during Thanksgiving that these people were doing that. They could have been eating turkey with their family, but they were fighting on the internet instead. where I saw these honest reviews. Are there dishonest reviews?
You can have a series where you play the first 10 minutes of a game and then you review the entirety of the game.
Or you
That is
just
ultimately
like
dishonest.
say, here's my dishonest review, and then make up like 5 minutes of complete bullshit about a game that's in your head.
There you go. See, that would be nice. And someone even brought up where it's just like, that would just be saying whatever the highest bidder pays you to say. I was like, okay, I think I could monetize this.
Yeah.
I'm okay with honest reviews, but there's no dishonest reviews.
See?
Yeah,
So
That's not bad.
there's no counterpoint. Doran Grossman Naples gives $5. Says throwback to when Microsoft refused to pay VG Donkey for a sponsored video because he didn't like the game. Well, that's showing your whole ass, isn't it?
Well, I mean, okay, so I don't know the story of this. Was this like they agreed to the sponsorship, they signed a contract, he created a video, and because it was negative, they refused to pay him? Or was it hey, we would like to pay you to play our game, however, you need to be positive about it, and he said no, and then they said, no, we're not going to do this? Because in that case, that's just how business works.
Yeah.
However, if he'd already made the video and there was like a tacit agreement and without sort of those stipulations, then that's shitty. I don't actually know
Well, I guess we'll never know, and all we can do is speculate.
We'll ask him next.
Did you know
next
Donkey
pod-
also lives in Wisconsin?
Yes.
What's
Incredible.
everyone doing in Wisconsin these days?
Nothing.
Great
There's dick all. They're buying uncooked pizzas at Papa Murphy's. Have you seen that, Yachts? They have establishments that sell you raw pizzas. This man had a dream to be a pizzaiolo, and he didn't have an oven, but he wasn't going to let that hold him back.
Wait, how's that different to just buying a frozen pizza? And
Because
cooking
it's
it
a
in the oven at
handmade
home?
artisanal
It's
frozen
thawed.
pizza. They
It's
make
not frozen.
Well, I can
They
pretty sure I
make
can
the
get-
frozen pizza in front of you, and then you go home and bake it in your own
Well,
oven.
even so, I'm pretty sure I can get those at the Whole Foods. They're sort
The
of like
funny
shrink
thing-
wrapped in the grab and go cabinet.
The funny thing is, it's cheaper than like a cooked pizza, but it's more expensive than just a regular frozen pizza, and does not taste better than a regular frozen pizza.
No, it doesn't.
So,
No.
yeah.
They're just out here selling raw pizzas. It's crazy.
Wisconsin's great. What a great state. What a great state. Top 50.
I'm just a little thrown by Frost's reaction now. I don't think there's anything weird or mysterious about selling someone an uncooked pizza as they can cook it at home. I mean, most shops will sell you uncooked food for you to cook at home.
No, it's not a shop. It's like going to McDonald's and they're like, here, have the patty, cook it at home.
I've been to pizza places where they'll sell you like half cooked pizzas, so you can finish the cook. You can finish the baking in your home oven, and then it tastes more fresh when you get to
What's
eat it.
going on here? It should be cheaper, or they should pay me for it. Like, what is happening? We're justifying this behavior. I can't have it.
I mean, how is it different to like they send you food and it's a bit cold when you arrive, so you stick it in the microwave for a bit?
That's like you're kickstarting a pizza. You're paying for the possibility that it will be a good pizza afterwards.
Yeah. See, this is Strand type pizza. This is
the future
This is
Hideo
what
Kojima warned us
Kojima wanted.
about.
Yeah.
Guys, do you
I
realize
mean-
we're a week away from possibly seeing more Hideo Kojima in LA at the Game Awards? Oh my god. I'm very
God.
excited. I hope he wears cool glasses.
Who knows what to expect? Anyway, lots of super chats to continue getting through.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Batman's bottom B gives £4.99 British pounds. Says, have you had problems getting review codes being a brand new outlet? Love the content. Well, you have to ask Nick and Marty.
We haven't had problems. We haven't really got to that step yet, which is nice because we're pretty much at the end of the year. So that is definitely a big goal for January and February. And God knows I want a Persona 3 reload code and I want a Final Fantasy 7 rebirth code. And let me tell you guys, those reviews, there's going to be some bias in those reviews. Oh boy, there's going to be some bias in those reviews.
Oh dear.
I see. Again, just to me, it's just clarity. If you're like, I'm the biggest Nintendo show, I'm like, all right, this is fine as long as I know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we've got plenty of publicity, so presumably the publishers know that we're not nobodies.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm not too worried about it. And we got a lot. Yeah, we got a lot of momentum. We got some sort of a second wind behind us.
Oh, what do you know? It's almost like that's why we picked the name. Vulgar Display of Gaming gives 10 Australian dollars. Says no real message. Just said I'd donate when super chats are back. So putting my money where my mouth is.
Thank you,
Vulgar Display of Gaming.
Man of his word.
Zaratha gives 5 Brazilian real and says one day the Windbreaker jokes will go old and stop. Until then, I'll enjoy the stream with a nice bowl of beans and spinach. Toot.
Oh my god, I love a toot is very nice.
That was a very pleasant toot. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, Hunter Roge gifted 5 memberships out to the Second Wind audience, including Alexander, Tyrell, Jon Snow, Grunger, and Lady Luminous. So thank you, Hunter, and congrats to the rest of you for joining the Green Gang for this month.
Well, shit in my camel's mouth.
Oh my God. And Uncle Director, Ultra Director Jester is in the tip jar. Welcome. And Chris S is in the tip jar. Welcome.
Oh,
was this about your camel? What?
Well, I was
my Uncle Camel.
I just wanted to shit in something's mouth, and I guess that was what sprung to mind.
Oh, it reminded me of this nativity scene I seen.
I was
First
trying to
time
think
seeing
of
a
it.
camel.
Well, I was trying to think of an animal that started with sh, but none sprung to mind instantly.
Skunk?
That doesn't
Said
start with sh.
Skunk.
Shit in my shopkeeper's mouth. There you go.
Ooh.
Matt Faulkner gives $4.99 US, says, Yahtzee, there are so many talented voices on Second Wind. Have you thought about turning one of your books into an audio drama using those voices? No.
Dun dun.
If we were doing that, I could probably just get Audible on the phone and, produce it through them, because they're really into my audio books. They're already booked the studio for my recording sessions for the next one. So that'll be this upcoming weekend and the following one sorted.
That's exciting.
Look at that.
I'm just
Yeah, let Marty have a read.
I'm going to go in for 2 full-time sessions on Saturday and Sunday, so my voice might be a bit croaky next week.
Lovely. Stay hydrated.
Well, I've got my own methods. Drink tea, eat apple slices, and use professional-grade singer's throat spray every now and again.
Yeah, I was expecting like something
That
up
sounded...
your arse. Yeah, the way you were saying that.
That sounded really ominous.
Alrighty then.
Yes, I murder small children and drink their blood. That is my secret.
I knew it.
Elizabeth Bathory.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Well, not too much blood at once, because blood's an emetic. That's how they caught John George Haig.
The creator of the Hague?
No, John George Haig, the acid bath murderer. He was trying to get off on an insanity plea, so he tried to tell the police that he drank the blood of his victims.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd never mentioned throwing up. But the doctors said, no, blood makes you throw up. If he drank that much blood, he'd throw up. So that's how they realized he was just faking it.
What a chump.
The insanity plea.
If he just had an iron stomach. Poor guy.
Silly John George Haig. Dio Dunga gives $1.99 US, says, wanted to tell Marty I've been using HBD for years. HBD for happy birthday.
Yeah. Do you know about this, or do you only know about this from us talking about it?
I only know from you talking about it that HBD is short for happy birthday. I wouldn't have guessed that, frankly.
I thought that was a very common thing, and I said I want to start doing anniversary streams like we did last week for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. That's just called HBD, and everyone said that's not real, and it sounds like sexually transmitted disease. So I don't know where we're at in that.
I keep reading it as Central Business District.
I keep, to me, it's having big dick, like big dick energy. Yeah, because birthday is one word.
It is. It is. It is. It doesn't make sense. I like having big dick, though.
Anyway,
settled.
On that note, Opus 4 gives 50 Danish kroner and says, some money for the tips jar. Love your stuff. We get a lot of Scandinavian viewers, don't we? Must be prime time over there.
That's the Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah. Mappy 1964 gives $5 and says, Yahtzee, thank you for introducing me to the word ephemeral. A simple word with quite a lot of deep meaning. Yes, it's a fun word, that, isn't it? Ephemeral.
Yeah. Like when you almost do like a word of the day in a ZP. I remember elegiac from Cuphead.
Oh, yes. That's another one I'm fond of.
What's elegiac? I don't even know what that word is.
It means having the qualities of an elegy, or having a slightly sort of moribund tone to it. I see. When I was Cuphead, the whole retro animation style always reminds me of death for some reason. Probably because everyone who developed old style cartoons like that are all dead
for a very long time.
That do it. Like you can't watch that and not go, this is made by dead people. I see dead people's work.
It's weird that we're getting close to that point in the gaming industry where the creators of early favorite games are going to start dying at a very frequent pace. Like in the same way that if you watch movies and everything, the Oscars do an in memoriam every year to all the significant figures in entertainment who died. Like we're getting to a point where that's gonna start happening in games. That's gonna be
What a
weird.
happy note.
Yeah.
Onward.
Have you seen the new Mickey Mouse animation style? I was at Disneyland fairly recently, and there's a new ride on there called Mickey Mouse's Runaway Railroad.
Okay.
Which it's a ride for kids, but I thought I was really impressed by it because it's got really interesting integrated animation technology. But there's this whole new like Mickey Mouse animation style that it uses that's sort of like halfway between Steven Universe and really old classic, very early like Steamboat Willie style animation.
Did you play that Disney Illusion Island game? Was it the same sort of animation
Yes, I
style
think it
that
was.
being used?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
'cause that does.
uses-
I think there's a Disney
Yeah.
Plus cartoon series that kind of uses that animation. I think it's cool. Yeah, it has flavor to it.
It's interesting how reminiscent it is of the really old sort of spaghetti arms
Mm-hmm.
classic animation style.
Love it.
Because it's interesting that in that whole era, it wasn't generally accepted that animation was for kids. That
Yeah.
sort of became
Not
more
with
prevalent
those
in
themes.
like
Jesus.
Yeah.
and after like Disney did their series of animation classics, it became more a thing that animation was for kids.
And once it
But,
started like feeding into the theme park and everything, and it became
Yeah,
Like, at what
There
point
was-
did they start finally going, okay, this is more kid friendly? Because even like younger Disney, Snow White, Cinderella.
yeah. I think a big part of it was like kids Saturday morning cartoons as well,
sure.
in like from like the 60s onwards.
Yeah.
Because like the Flintstones was always like an animated sitcom. It had like a laugh track and everything.
Yeah.
And it was
Mhm.
about middle-aged people.
Yeah. Domestic violence, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
for kids.
Not wearing pants at work.
But anyway, moving on. Laura Light's video archive gives $4.99 US. Says, "Hey Yahtzee, have you ever thought of doing a retrospect on EVE Online or paid much attention to press around EVE Vanguard? Love you guys. Salute." No, I have not. I have spared nary a brain cell for EVE Online since my original review of it. Frankly,
However, we did a large, a big old documentary on EVE Online back at the Escapist that you can check out. Both the game and the fan fest surrounding it. Thumbs up.
Rhythm Hawk gives $9.99 US. Says, regarding the mainstream outlets, the perception that they are less honest for me comes with the inconsistent standards they use to review. Go-to example is COD Infinite Warfare, with IGN scoring it 9 out of 10. Thoughts?
Let's do a quick thing right here. Hold on. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, Sea of Stars, what do you rate it, Marty?
8.
Yahtzee?
Don't make me do this.
Do it quick.
I'm philosophically
Just go.
against
I don't
scores.
care about your philosophical unity. Go.
All right, 7.5.
Right, and mine would be a 5. You see how inconsistent that was, and we all have different backgrounds. But that's just how IGN goes about it.
Yeah,
It's different.
Different
people.
human beings review these games. I did the same thing. I
Yeah.
reviewed a couple Assassin's Creed games, and I got yelled at because I said this was my favorite one in years, and then they were like, "But your score is lower than the last one." And I was
Yes,
like, "Well,
there is an inherent inconsistency with scores.
Yeah.
Because not every game can be summarized from a 1 to 10 scale.
Yeah, not even like an 8 out of 10. Is that a game punching above its weight, or is that a game that should have been great and went to shit? It's just different. Scores just suck. That's simple.
Also,
as that.
you hear that last week we had you and Stefan who both weren't crazy about Alan Wake 2. And meanwhile, you got Alan Wake 2 getting nominated for awards up the wazoo because a lot of people are crazy for it. So different strokes, different folks, and whatnot.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
I only said 7.5 because that's like the milk toast score that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, and I said 5 because I'm not an RPG guy, but I was forced a JRPG guy, but I forced myself to give a score. You see, and
Yeah,
it
I
was
was
on
about
the
to say, you
spot. Like
You can't
this
say
is
I
not a
was
good
forced.
system.
You forced yourself.
I wouldn't force you guys to do something I wouldn't do.
There you go. That's kind of you.
No.
I think Toffee's impatient for his walk.
Mm.
Warrior 4356. Warrior's got 3 R's in it, by the way. Warrior 4356 gives $4.99 US and says, overlooked indie game I love, Heat Signature, part of the Defenestration trilogy with Gunpoint. Might be worth a look for its design.
I like
What's the third game in the Defenestration trilogy?
Because that was the Tom Francis's games, right?
Yeah.
He was a former game critic who became a developer.
Yeah, I think I started Heat Signature. I don't think I put any more time into it.
His first game was Gunpoint, I think that was.
Yeah, his first game's Gunpoint.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the third defenestration game is.
Super Mario Wonder.
Do people get thrown through windows in that a lot?
Did they?
It might. There's no way to know.
To defenestrate, do you have to be thrown or can you just jump?
No, you can self-defenestrate.
But that's a different word. Okay.
I mean,
So
the word literally is just means to put through a window.
Okay.
Or to exit through a window, because fenestra is Latin for window.
To unwindow yourself.
To unwindow yourself.
Loki's Wager gives $10 and says, would you ever consider doing some short stories set in the Jacques McKeown universe that aren't about the main cast? I love the world building so much and just want to see more of it. Well, to be honest with you, I'm not really big on short stories as an art form. I've never really liked writing them. I don't really like reading them. I'm more interested in like novels, really. I like the long form experience. But, feel free to write fan fiction. I remember reading some erotic Jacques McKeown fan fiction once. I wonder if that's still around.
Still waiting on the next chapter, him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it was the predictable relationship between the main male character and the main female character. It was nothing particularly spicy, but it was there.
Speaking of clarity, I once accidentally read fan fiction for Harry Potter thinking it was like a missing book I missed. Yeah. Clarity. If you take nothing else away from you, you don't have to be understood. You just have to be as clear as possible.
I was always thrown by just how prevalent erotic fan fiction was, because I remember when I first got onto the internet and I was just like a dumb kid and thinking, oh, I really like Red Dwarf. I'm going to look up fan fiction of Red Dwarf so I could just read stories about my favorite characters. And like 90% of them were erotic. And that was a coming of age moment, I fear.
Yeah.
Made him the man he is today.
Vulgar Display of Gaming gives 10 Australian dollars and says, actually, just remembered I do have a question. Will there be a stream for the Game Awards? Big fan of the award stroke showcase streams.
Vulgar, this is going to be a world premiere right now. There will be. And I don't think that's a world premiere because I think I've said it before. Yes, we're going to be doing our traditional live watch-along post-show shenanigans to the Game Awards next Thursday, December 7th. We'll probably be starting that on this channel, the big channel, the main channel, because it is an event stream, probably around 5 p.m. Central that day, because I believe the award show starts at 6 or so. So tune in for more details. But yeah, we'll be doing our traditional spoofs and goofs and seeing what Geoff Keighley has in store for us. Maybe a little Hideo Kojima just slipping in there. Who knows?
You gonna do bingo?
Oh, I forgot about bingo. Yeah, we'll do some bingo. Yeah.
Geoff Keighley.
Geoff Keighley. Yeah.
That sounds like you're insulting him. Geoff Keighley.
Geoff Keighley.
Dundum. Absolutely Dundum.
His parents named him that. Tragic.
It's a perfectly valid alternative spelling of Jeff.
Is that not where it came from? No, it's not the alternative. Like, isn't that the original?
I think so, yeah. Like, there's like historical figures called like Geoffrey of Monmouth, where it's spelled Geoff, but it was always pronounced Jeff. Stop saying Geoff, it's weird. You have to remember, like, until Middle English, there was no consistency for spelling. You just wrote down how you thought it was spelled based on how it sounded.
What a great time. We should go back to that.
Words are jazz. Man, I was born in the wrong century.
Yeah.
Apparently. Magnum White gives $5 and says, I also feel that a certain amount of background is important for criticism. I'd be a terrible car critic since I don't really have a point of reference. But what about the fresh perspective?
There's a lot of that nowadays. Yeah, they want virgin
art
reviewers.
is a thing.
Yeah. I think as long as, again, we keep talking about transparency, as long as the audience knows where you're coming from. Like, if I went into something, someone's like, I don't know how to drive, but here's my car review. I think that'd be pretty funny.
What if, though,
like, I know what I'm getting into.
After how many car reviews are you now a car guy?
Was it the Michael Jordan 10,000 hours thing? You have to do 10,000 hours of car reviews to become an expert in something?
Yeah, I suppose. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with background, but more so again the clarity of it.
Sorry. Chris Gaines 2000 gives $5 and says, Yahtzee speaks truth, as is his wont. This donation brought to you by successful monetization of my life. Profit off of me, profiting off of me. Thank you very much, Chris Gaines 2000. Want
Thanks,
is
Chris.
a slightly archaic word, meaning tendency.
So when somebody took a bite out of your wonton,
Yeah.
just left you with the want.
It's a very useful word to know if you're playing Scrabble and you wanted to spell want with an A, but you didn't have an A.
Yeah, and then people get really mad, and then you look real smart by telling them, look it up.
Yeah, yeah. I am a painfully smug Scrabble player, I'll have you know.
That is
we should play.
I always make sure to take a picture when I use all my tiles and get the 50-point bonus.
Yes, I think you and I should have a go because I know your style. Ooh, look at him flexing his vocabulary. Meanwhile, I'm like, 2 letters. I just blocked you on the triple word.
No,
just griefing?
I just grief.
Trust me, I understand the high-level Scrabble play. I used to kick ass in Babel Royale, but nobody plays that anymore.
That?
We'll bring it back. We should Words with Friends. There we go.
We should organize a community Babel Royale night. I'll just sit in the corner and just murder all comers.
Hubba. Diego Lomac, welcome to the Green Gang. Han, welcome to the Green Gang. Django, welcome to the Green Gang. And Shala the Prinny, welcome to the Green Gang. Welcome, everyone.
Sarah D gives $10 says, I've seen some streamers who do a good job with text-heavy games by reading the text like they're telling a story. Kind of gives it more of an immersive feel to it while watching the gameplay. Well, to each their own, Sarah D. I've never liked that sort of stream. I always prefer the sort of commentary stroke analysis approach.
Oh, you want to, but like for text narrative heavy games? That's what they're talking about.
I just don't watch streams of text-heavy. I mean, if I want to see what goes on in a text-heavy narrative game, I'll just play the text-heavy narrative game.
There you go. Yeah, I do the voices and not Dokapon. What's that? Dangon Romper, Dragon Romper.
Yeah, Donkey Kong Romcom.
Yeah, I do all the different voices until I run out of voice.
I streamed the first 5 hours of Final Fantasy VII last night. I got out of Midgar and I did voices for everyone. It was great. Also, Tifa says the R word in that game. And let me tell you, I was not a fan of that. I was like, Tifa, what are you doing?
What? She said Tifa. Rochester.
She did. She said Rochester, New York. Yeah.
Who did she call her Rochester?
There was one that ran up the stairs. She was exhausted. She had a momentary lapse. It was 97. It was a learning experience.
She called the stairs.
Whatever you're going to say, just go on to the next one. Yahtzee, just fucking pet your dog and read the next one.
Okay.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Unbiased review. Go.
I just wanted to know what she
thought
of Rochester.
Go to the next one.
Will Power gives $5. There's people complaining about bugs in Starfield. Need to try Daggerfall on a PC at the time. Well, standards were lower.
Well, not just that. I've also never cared about that. Like, well, this game was worse. That doesn't change my feelings about the game I'm playing, you know? So.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a good strategy. Play a shit game before a less shit game. It makes the discrepancies between them is like, whoa, what a great game.
Yeah. You'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
But then in terms of like the Olympics of suffering, and I'm like, well, just because this thing is worse doesn't mean my thing isn't bad.
There's an entire genre based on this feeling.
That is true.
If you only exclusively play things that are really good, you're going to have a very depressing life.
Yep. That's how I feel, yeah.
That's why I enjoyed Alan Wonderworld.
You'd be like the critic in Ratatouille being really emaciated looking.
Right.
If I'm not in heaven, I don't swallow.
I feel more like Remy.
Yeah. Whose hat are you under?
The
real DJ gives $5. Says, hi guys, have you heard about Knuckle Sandwich? It's a quirky RPG that takes inspiration from WarioWare and Mario and Luigi, not to Amori you.
I have heard about it. I believe it just came out last week. I don't know anything about it. I didn't know the WarioWare part of it though. That sounds nice.
So I assume they're referencing like the fact that all the attacks in Mario and Luigi are minigame based. But I feel like the Mario Luigi games got a little bit too minigame centric. I mean, I preferred it when it was just, the Super Mario RPG thing. Press the button with the right timing to do a bit of extra damage or take a bit less health from attacks.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but by the end, like the last Mario and Luigi game, you got to do these elaborate QuickTime event cutscenes, mash the button to make a train go along a roller coaster track
What?
for 5 minutes.
Oh, Jesus. Is that a common thing in RPGs? I quite liked in Sea of Stars where you're like deflecting things because I could get that thing to like 100 bounces.
It's not a
Yeah.
common thing in RPGs. That's why people liked it so much in Sea of Stars, is because it called back to games like the Mario RPG series.
Was it Mario RPG that pioneered pressing a button with good timing to do extra damage, stroke, take less damage?
I think Legend of Dragoon came out first, didn't it?
No, Mario RPG came out first. Mario RPG was a Super Nintendo game. Dragoon was a PS1 game. So
hot damn.
Yeah, that might be the first. I did that with all my RPGs back in the day. I did that with like Chrono Trigger and Earthbound, and whenever I'd get a critical hit, I'd be like, "That's because my timing was right," even though that was not a mechanic in those games. That was just me being dumb.
Oh.
Well, anyway, Fox D comes, who I referred to as a child molester earlier. You'll remember, gives $2 and says, "Yahtzee, you magnificent madman. No kids diddled."
Great.
Although
Legally binding.
Let's
we
settle.
only
Move
have his
on.
word for that.
Legally binding. What about extended club mix? What does extended club
What do
mix
you
have to say?
say?
What does extended club mix have to say?
Extended Club Vex gives $10 to say, "I think of honest reviews the same way as I do when a mechanic has a sign that says most reliable or a pizza place is best in the city. Hyperbole meant to attract attention or, a lie."
My favorite is the closing down, like mattress shops.
Yeah.
Clearance
It's like, this has been
sales.
several years.
Down. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, you're not closing down.
Like these are the mechanics who say most reliable. They should use spurious rigor to their advantage. They should say something like second most reliable place in town. Because the whole point of spurious rigor is that it's unlike saying you're the most reliable in town, it implies there's been some thought about it.
Yeah.
Like the way it's usually used is say in adverts, they'll say, "Our product has been proven to kill 99% of germs." And they never say kill all germs or kill 100% of germs.
Right.
Because by saying 99% implies there's been some rigorous study.
That's good. Yeah. So it would be like honest-ish reviews. They would do better than just honest reviews.
Mostly honest reviews.
Like
Second
99
most honest reviews on the internet, according to What Review magazine.
2 truths and a lie review.
Witticism gives $5 and says, "For what it's worth, I think you're all upfront with your opinions. If they get filtered due to dollars, they still come out genuine. Good podcast today."
Thank you.
And every Monday, Witticism, there will be good podcasts. Sometimes with guests, perhaps.
Sudip, welcome to the tip jar as well, Sudip.
Oh, look who it is. It's Wojtek.
The bear.
Remember back in slightly something else days where Wojtek taught us about Wojtek the bear and how to pronounce his name.
Is incredible.
Oh.
Who gives $5 and says, "Nothing to add, just happy to start the week with the new podcast."
Thank you, Wojtek.
Or is it Wojciech?
Is that
Wojtek?
Is that Polish? Is it Welsh?
It's Polish. Wojtek was a bear who was liberated from a zoo in World War II and fought alongside the army and smoked cigarettes and helped them carry ammunition and became a general. And I think a lot of those facts are wrong, but like the gist of it is correct.
That's like Winnie the Pooh. Yeah.
Yeah. If Winnie the Pooh killed Nazis.
Yeah. No, Canadian army.
Yeah.
What was Paddington doing before he left Darkest Peru? Aiding like the local guerrillas, perhaps.
He was like 4.
Yeah, that's pretty old for a bear. Like a 4-year-old bear could fuck you up.
Paddington would have been a Sandinista.
Oh, look, it's Fill My Ass Up with 200 krona.
Oh my God, Phil.
Who says, "I always had a skeptical look on influencers. It seems a lot of them seem to want to be an extension of a publisher's marketing, saying whatever will get them early access, while official outlets fear the blacklisting." Well, if anyone is like really enthusiastic for their new gamer chair on stream, probably safe to discount their opinions.
I do not have a gamer chair, so I feel saved.
You're not thinking what I was thinking. Okay. Onward.
I just thinking back to Ninja and when he was like riding high doing Fortnite streaming and showed off his special streaming room, which was like covered in neon blue LEDs, and he had a special gamer chair and everything, and like cut price Starship Enterprise.
Yeah, no, he was decked out. Him. Well, I mean, if you want to be in marketing, there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure, as long
Yeah,
as you're transparent.
Yeah.
if people want to pay me to wear their logos on my streams, that sounds great.
Oh,
Just deck me out like a NASCAR.
Yeah, welcome to Shell Up Sundays.
Yeah.
We're brought to you by Sean Connery.
Why did you say it like that?
Out from there.
I love Papa Murphy's.
But Django gives $20 and says, I used to work at Papa Murphy's a long time ago for a few years, and I will tell you the pizzas are actually really good. It depends upon the store, of course, but the pizza was always good. Frost is a fake pizza fan.
Oh my god, a fake pizza boy?
No, I'm not a fan of fake pizza. I've had the finest of pizzas, yeah.
Have you ever been to the pizza region of Italy?
No, I haven't. You're right. It's all just sparkling paisans.
Sudip gives 80 Indian rupees and says, what are your thoughts on Starfield? Well, I could tell you a pretty good way you could find out, Sudip, is you could go and watch the zero punctuation on it. You know, that's not our IP anymore, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still my thoughts.
That's what I like about you. Look at that. He's not redoing them. He's just like, I said it. It's staying.
I don't want to think about Starfield again.
That too.
Yeah.
All still up there. It's all water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned. It's not like we're now saying that I never did zero punctuations for the Escapist.
You've been dead for 16 years. I only put like 3 hours into Starfield, and I came to the conclusion I come to in every Bethesda game, which is these games aren't for me.
Babe, yeah. Mine was weird. I put that down to just the bugs or something. They were very like, come on, play with us, because it was those few like 3 rangers at the start. That's like, oi, get out of here! But they're sitting right behind a pile of red barrels.
Yeah,
and I couldn't. I saved right there because I couldn't resist shooting them for being such a cunt.
Magnus the Rad, you watch my Spider-Man 2 zero punctuation if you want. I don't care. It's the only way you're gonna find out my opinions on Spider-Man 2.
Watch all those, like, I'm proud of a bunch of shit. I got that Resi Zero video. Watch that Resi Zero video. All our old Dokapon streams, those are great.
Yeah, we took pride in our work.
Not mine. They're dead to me.
We're not
if you watch an old cold take, you're not loyal at all.
Anyway, Humane Shield gives $4.99 US. Says, always loved that the one time Yahtzee went to E3 was the events last year. Marty, I've now taken on the task of spreading HBD to everyone I meet. Well, that sounds
Mary
like
of HBD.
Sounds like a disease.
That's venereal.
Yeah, you killed E3. How do you feel about that? What if GDC never exists anymore because of you?
You're welcome.
Roasted.
Wait, the game developer conference?
Yeah, he went to it last year.
Oh, that one's fun. E3 is the one I could do without.
Yeah, fair enough. Hairy bum disease. There you go. That's what you're spreading when you're spreading HBD.
Oh God, it's terrible.
Christ almighty. Miss Maiko, welcome to the tip jar. Thank you so much, Miss Maiko.
Asirat gives $5. Says, should scores or reviews be redone as games change with constant updates? No, that's psychotic.
Some do that. Like with Destiny, they talk about the patches and who is they? Shadow reviewers.
Your job these days, your job would never be done.
See, that's the point of. That's why you do seek out content creators who only play one live service game. That's where I think they actually like trump outlets. Is that they like all I do is play Path of Exile. All I do is play Destiny.
Well,
right?
Sure.
But at that point, like you're asking the opinion of a McDonald's burger from that dude who's eaten a Big Mac every year since the 60s. Like,
that's fair.
Do I want that guy's opinion on McDonald's?
I love him.
Or the guy who was like, I saw Captain Marvel 154 times in theaters. I'm like, I probably don't need your opinion on that movie.
Is Don Gorski. He dripped too hard. He smoked too rough. They're gonna kill him.
Olhanuk gives £5 and says, ever had a smell become strongly associated with a game? For me, the smell of wet paint is Fallout 3. I first played it in a freshly decorated room. No, I don't think I've got any of those. I sometimes associate certain podcasts with certain games because I was listening to them while playing that game.
Yeah, mine's music. Like Ninja Gaiden and Black Eyed Peas. The horrible mix, but it's there. Not a smell. Can't say a smell.
Yeah, not smell. No, definitely the stuff I've had on the background. Or I'm trying to think food wise. I remember for some reason the weekend I got Mario RPG as a kid. When I got the game on the way home, we went to Dairy Queen and got Blizzards. And so I associate Mario RPG with Blizzards. And even when I was playing the remake recently, I was like, you know what I could go for right now? The Blizzard. Because those are fucking great. They put them upside down and they don't fall off.
That's very cute.
Yeah, that's what I need for gaming.
Yeah. What, the Blizzard test?
Yeah.
Can you dump a game upside down and have it not fall out of the cup?
No.
Is that important that it not fall out of the cup?
No, it's just the selling thing. No.
Yeah. Do you know what a Dairy Queen Blizzard is?
Not off the top of my head, but I think there's a lot of things that don't fall out of the cup. Like
it's like an ice cream concrete mixer, and their whole thing is like we can put it upside down, and that's how sticky it is in the cup.
Like a McFlurry.
It is. McFlurry's just stole it from. Yeah,
here's the thing, though, about ice cream: if it doesn't melt, it's low quality.
I'm not here for the quality, man.
I'm here for the treats and pizzas. You're here for the defying physics.
Well, if it doesn't melt, it's from space.
We gotta kill it. We gotta find another way to kill it.
You can get like astronaut ice cream, can't you? There's just like freeze-dried pellets of ice cream that remain solid, but aren't cold.
You're talking about dots.
Nice.
Dippin' Dots. The ice cream of the future.
No, I'm talking about when you used to go to like the observatory and they'd sell you astronaut food.
Oh
and,
like the dry,
what?
The dry ice cream.
You two pretending that going to an observatory is a normal thing? Yeah, as you do.
I went to like a couple times as a kid. I don't know, field trip or something.
When I was a kid, I went to Goon Hilly Observatory. There's like a whole science museum. It's nice.
You talking about Goon Hill? What's going on Goon Hill?
Goonie, yeah.
Goon Hilly. It's the name of an observatory in the UK. Oh, forget it.
Fucking great. Real quick tangent. Dippin' Dots reminded me of the former. It was Trump's press secretary or something, Sean Spicer. I'm putting this link in here because Sean Spicer, that dude was a dipshit. He had a years-long feud with Dippin' Dots on Twitter. And when he became press secretary, everyone was like, what the fuck is the deal with this dude? And why is he always going at war with Dippin' Dots? And I found it very funny. He has such tweets as Dippin' Dots are not the ice cream of the future. And I think I've said this before, but they're not the ice cream of the future. He was very angry about it. It was great.
Ice cream of the past, he even calls it.
Danced on their grave when they filed for bankruptcy.
I don't. Well, all right.
Stanton Ballard gives $5. Says, I like the way Famitsu scores their reviews. I wish a few more outlets would iterate on that format. Love you guys. Keep up the awesome work. So, I don't know how Famitsu scores their reviews.
4 people review the game. It's like how EGM used to do it. Although 4 people review the game and then they give you each one has a score out of 10 and then the total is out of 40. The problem with that is how do you you can't have 4 people at an outlet reviewing the same game. Like that would ruin productivity. Like you need 4 people to be reviewing 4 different games. Like that would be insane.
What if they don't like it too?
That would still just leave you with a number out of 40, which doesn't mean anything out of context.
They're also those numbers are usually relatively close to each other. You never have someone giving it a 10 and someone giving it a 2 in Famitsu.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just don't want a scale where we don't use half the numbers because anything less than 5 means you're probably fucked up. Like it's not a game even.
Well, that's the problem is to be a 1 or a 2 out of 10, you have to be unfunctional. And most people just aren't going to review a game that is or that'd be just going on Steam and being like, hey, this one guy made a thing that's broken. Let's make fun of it. You don't need to do that.
1 out of 10 game is malware.
Yeah.
Late to the Party gives $4.99 and says, re-review revisits. Love it when games don't hit right the first time, but keep me curious. Some of those have ended up being my faves.
Yeah, I love that too.
That said, I still can't be asked to play Cyberpunk again.
I'm glad I held out for that. That's how I kind of, I don't know. I've rarely hit a game where I go, oh, now I get it. Like I just finished Hollow Knight proper. And I go, I respect you the older I get, but I like you less. And I'm looking forward to your sequel.
Wow.
Blue McDee's Nuts gives $5. Says, any of you have a colossal fuck-up moment that a charming apology followed? What was the mistake and what did you do to sort of right it? Oh, I do have one of these. I once had a gag in 0 punctuation.
Let's.
What?
I don't know. I'm very scared where we're going right now.
Well, I just said something that was interpreted to be transphobic.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Carry on. Yeah.
And once that was made clear to me and I went over the comments, I realized, hey, you're probably right. That was probably a bad way to phrase that. So I redid the video with a slightly different phrasing.
That's great.
Good on you.
That's great.
Um,
If we as people aren't allowed to grow, then what's the point?
yeah, like who was it that made that video but kept saying Escapist wrong? So they redid the whole video.
Young
Ye?
Ye, I believe,
Yeah.
yes.
Good on him. Learning from his mistakes. What about you, Marty? Colossal fuck up moment with a charming apology?
Yeah,
You ever released any apology JPEGs? I've never done one of those.
Yeah, I'm gonna release mine and just blame it all on Konami.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't make mistakes, and if you find it, I will find you. So
Yeah. No, when I apologize, I just tend to. I think the secret to an apology is to be genuine.
sure.
Yeah.
I've always skirted the line between somebody and nobody. A lot of my mistakes fall in the nobody, so I don't have to make an apology. Usually.
Mm.
Well, there you go.
There we go.
It's true, Lampy. I did anger the Sonic fans, and then look at me. I became a Sonic fan myself. So there you go.
Lampy gives £5 says, so I presume we'll be ending with Suika game as is tradition. Or you could put Suika in that fourth slot during the podcast.
Suika in the fourth slot isn't a bad idea.
That's funny.
Guys, Suika game is so good.
I don't know what Suika is.
2048 fruit.
Yeah. It's that fruit dropping game that's kind of like Tetris, but with roly-poly physics. And then also the threes thing of when two touch each other, they combine to make something bigger. It's wonderful. It's great. Puzzle game of the year.
Well, anyway. Tower gives $5 and says, would you say 2023 was a good year for games? Trash Taste said it sucked, and they got put over hot coals for it. What do you guys think? I think it was a good year for being a games journalist because we had some very high highs and some very low lows, both of which are at least interesting to talk about.
I think
we had Baldur's Gate 3, but on the other hand, we had Forspoken and Gollum and Redfall and all the rest.
But I don't think it was just high highs. It was an incredible amount of high highs. I think it was several generation defining games. And I think people are going to look back on this year as like 2020, 2017, 2007 as one of the all-time greats, personally.
Sure, and all the big developers are going to be working on stuff for another 5 or 6 years now, because that's how it works.
Yeah.
See, I'm with the gutter, if you will. I'll be with the Trash Taste fellows. Where when I think great video game years, I think back in like the early 2010s and whatnot, stuff like that. I feel like it's just been so bad the last couple of years that this one, just relatively speaking, is a great year. But just because my ex abused me and this one says please, I don't think they are the nicest and worthy of a saintlyhood. Good year, but not like I'll remember this forever. It's more so if I remember that there was a pandemic beforehand. Yeah. I remember this year.
Well, I just think there's a lot of years where at the end of the year run up, I'm just going, today there was a lot of mundane and crap not worth talking about came out this year. And this year I feel like there was actually some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like my top 5, bottom 5, and bland 5 are going to be pretty easy to fill up this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as like news stuff though, yeah, it's been all over. Like it's been something worth watching. I think we'll look back on this year as like what happened.
Oh, I think it's been like awful for the industry.
When you look at
layoffs and bubble bursting and
yeah. I mean we're right at the heart of that, weren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that happened this year.
I think the one knock, I'm still incredibly enthusiastic about this year. I think the one knock against it is so many of those big games at the top are the 3rd, 4th, 10th, 16th games in their given franchises, which is not great. I think it'd be great to have some huge splashy new games and not just indies, but slow and steady.
Well, still waiting on Avatar.
This is gonna be it.
Oh god, I have to play that too now, don't I?
This is gonna be it.
Yeah, we all do. We all got to put in our time.
We all float down here in Pandora.
You know what I mean? That's what's changed now that we're independent. I have to play these big
games. We've got to get your takes.
Raziel gives 10 Polish zloty and says, late today, so here's some dosh to make up for it.
Thanks, Raziel.
Hello.
And then Fungus Finder comes in with $5 and says, Yahtzee, this is the last step in my experiment. Likely. Thank you for your participation.
Yeah, you didn't see, and it was in the Discord. He said it was actually after we left. Fungus Finder confessed in the old Escapist Discord and said, "I've been messaging super chats with the word likely, and I feel like Yahtzee's been losing his accent on it."
Incredible.
I think my accent sort of shifted along the course of all the likelies there.
Yeah.
Let me try that again. Likely.
Oh my God! You
got
like
lose it as you go
Yeah.
through. Whoa,
Yeah. I wasn't even trying to put that on. That's just what
Yeah.
happened.
that's
incredible.
cool.
It's like the more times I say it, the more my brain just sort of clicks back into my original accent.
You remember who you are.
Yeah, sort of corrects its mistake over time. Dio Dunker gave us $4.99 US. Says, fun fact: Dipping Dots makes its money from its freezer technology, not the actual ice cream.
That's
Well, that's
absolutely a
relief.
fun fact.
I
That's a
figured as
great
much.
fun
Yeah,
fact.
and now like kids roll the ice cream. You guys seen that? It's like cold
Yeah,
plates.
kids are smoking
I've
ice
seen
cream.
that.
I should get a cold plate for cold take.
Think
Like
about it.
ice
Did you
cream.
know soft serve ice cream was invented by Margaret Thatcher?
The
Living
Margaret
the
Thatcher?
Iron Lady?
Well, to clarify, she was a food scientist before she was a politician, and she was part of the team that developed soft serve ice cream.
Wow.
She probably took all the credit for it.
Huh. She's in gastronomy. Oh, you know.
No.
Particularly ironic for British people because she was famously the prime minister who ended free milk for schools.
Yeah.
They called her Margaret Thatcher Milk Snatcher.
That's such a good burn.
Oh, it's so good.
Such a good burn. And Ronald McRagan, welcome to the Green Gang. I feel like that was very fitting.
That was
Margaret
very
Thatcher.
timely. Yeah, it's very timely.
Welcome back, Mr. President.
Mr. McPresident.
Toffee, why do you look guilty?
Coffee's like it's been an hour 45 minutes.
I know, but he was sort of wandered off and was hiding behind the couch for a few minutes, and now
he probably did a secret poo.
Yeah.
So I'm worried. I'm worried I'm going to find a secret poo as soon as we're done here.
No,
An illegal poker game back there.
Fine, you're going to find a little spooky on the floor.
Well, anyway, SVS Guru 2000 gives €10. It says instead of having a singular score, they should give sub-scores to different aspects of the game, like gameplay, story, graphics, bugginess, and what weights they give each. Yeah, people have tried that, SVS Guru 2000, but people always insist on like an average at the end.
Yeah, I was working on something like that just to humor people. So, like on roguelikes, you would crack out the replayability rubric because that's kind of like a big thing for it, whereas you probably don't care for other genres. But in the end, it's all just numbers and averages, and it's hard.
Yeah. Lydia Hollowmore gives 5 Australian and says, Yachts, have you ever played the Jack and Daxter games? If so, what did you think? If not, would you ever play them for a retro review? Actually, no, I never played the Jack and Daxter games. That era was sort of a blind spot for me. At the time, I only had a GameCube, I think.
I really like, especially Jack and Daxter 1. It had the entire island was one single location, and so you'd go from like biome to biome without like mega loading screens or whatever. And one of the first examples of being able to like look to the top of a mountain and be like, oh, I'm going to be going there at some point.
I know Jack 2 is one of the classic examples of the stupid, edgy early 2000s sequel.
Yep, the GTA-ification.
Yes. Also
Prince
known as
Persia did the same thing.
Yeah, Prince of Persia Warrior Within syndrome.
Before that, no.
Yeah, Jack 1's great.
And Phil My Ass Up gives 50 Norwegian kroner to say, you should always criticize what you love the hardest. What eyed the harshest criticism you can give your favorite? What is the harshest criticism you can give your favorite game? Silent Hill 2's inventory puzzles are really stupid.
Is it because of the times, or are they just stupid?
They're just sort of rather stillily implemented. Like that whole business with using the wax doll to put a horseshoe on a trapdoor handle so that you can open the trapdoor.
That was great. I was able to get through it easily because you brought it up like a week before I got there in my replay, so that was nice. Banjo-Kazooie might be my favorite game of all time, but it before the final boss, you have to go through a quiz, and despite loving quizzes, it is the worst. Like, I don't know what the fuck was going on at Rare that they implemented. It is the most like frustrating quiz where it asks you questions of like, here's a zoomed in pic of a wall. What level was this? Or here's a noise. What animal made this noise? And I was like, I don't remember. any of these questions,
That
and
was-
it's
that was
very
me-
punishing, real pain in the ass.
That was me thinking the quizzes in ukulele were just because they ran out of money.
Nope, that was an ode. That was an ode to their earlier games, and a thing everyone
Oh.
hated in them.
Amazing.
Well, there you go.
I'd throw in not a single game, but the genre. I love roguelikes. I hate how lacking of transparency they are, and that's because the old games came with manuals, and someone was like, "Oh, the old ones didn't have all this information, so why should I?" Like, no, they did. They just didn't survive.
John the Gin gives 59 Norwegian kroner, says, Happy new thing. Best of luck going forward. Seems you've had a pretty good start. I just got a PSVR 2. Do any of you have any game recommendations? Well, I might recommend getting an Oculus Quest instead. Ha ha.
No, they already got one.
And
I'm trying to see if Sushi Ben is on PSVR. I haven't played it because I don't have VR. Oh yes, Sushi Ben. Get Sushi Ben. It looks like you live inside a cool anime. I'm putting a link to it.
I've heard
Sushi Ben.
like all the porn games.
Yeah, but it's less porny.
Okay. I've been seeing a lot of buzz around that new Assassin's Creed VR game. People
I've
are
heard it's
saying it's
pretty
actually
good.
really good.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it myself.
Yeah, I know the Resi games that they redid in VR were good.
always Super Hot and Beat Saber if you can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There you go.
And it's insane to me that Half-Life Alyx isn't on PSVR 2 yet.
Well, it's Valve, them and their PC Master Race and all that.
Mm-hmm.
SVS Guru 2000 gives €5, says, yes, soft serve ice cream, the art of getting people to pay more for literal air. I got bad news for you if you like sodas, SVS Guru 2000.
You've been tricked.
That's what makes it good. You need to
Yes.
aerate some things.
Yeah.
Aerating. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to get like those pots of chocolate mousse from the supermarket. Sometimes I'd just like stir it up with my spoon to make it like non-aerated anymore. I don't know why the fuck I did that. Because you ended up with like 1/3 as much chocolate mousse.
Yeah. What was this man's doing? It's bang for buck. Get that air out of there.
You got to get those mousse tannins out there like a nice glass of wine.
Lovely.
Oh, well, I guess we're at the
Done
end
it.
of the super chats there. Hey, we did it. No
We-
more super chats, please. We've stopped.
We did it.
Camden Ninja in the chat says soda has carbon dioxide, Yahtzee. That shit's valuable. You breathe that out, Camden Ninja. It can't be that valuable.
Comes out your mouth, he says.
Oh, and Zaratha comes in with $2 and says, waiting on Marty's unbiased Squeaky game review.
I think it's wonderful, and I'm very bad at it, and I'm never going to get better, and I'm fine with that.
Well, there you go. Well, thanks for listening to the Windbreakers podcast. We've got original content coming for you every day this week, I think.
Holy smokes!
If you like my stuff, I've got a fully Ramblematic on Wednesday. And I will be streaming some games for Yahtzee Tries Wednesday afternoon. And we'll have the edited version of that, hopefully branded by then, up on Saturday. Also incorporating the games I was streaming last week, I think.
Excellent, Frost. You got a new C-take, don't you?
Oh yeah, big old cold take. I need to go hit that some more. Like no spoilers. This thing's large. It's
Youngsters.
chungus. It's not even fully writ, and it's already twice as big as
I'm
a
excited.
normal.
I'm excited. I just got done. I got done editing like 2,500 words that Darren wrote about Doctor Who, and let me tell you, I'm ready.
Oh no, I'm at 3K, and I feel like I've barely made it done.
Sauce.
Sounds girthy.
It is girthy, big girth.
Love it.
Speaking of Darren, though, tomorrow, the debut of The Backdrop, Darren's new video, entertainment video essay show.
And it's not about professional wrestling.
It is not about professional wrestling, and let me tell you guys, The Backdrop, beautiful branding by our own Javed. So tune into that tomorrow.
Is the backdrop a wrestling move? Because it kind of sounds like it should be.
That's a suplex,
I don't think
no?
just a backdrop. I think like there's backdrop modifiers, like a DDT backdrop, powerbomb backdrop, Stone Cold Stunner backdrop.
It's like when they what the names of items in Diablo. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
add some suffixes, some prefixes, new items.
Exactly. Tune in for that. Yeah, we got all sorts of great. Oh, and then later today, we have a stream which may or may not be with Frost, but Nick will definitely be playing with someone else. Death Must Die, 3 p.m. Central. over on the Second Wind live channel.
It's neatish. It's like what is it? Those new Bullet Heaven games, but it tries to do the Hades thing. It's I cannot be unbiased. Let me tell you, I'm addicted to that genre because even if I'm not having a good time, I can't stop playing. So like that, that's a different review in itself.
Yeah.
And is that all we got to plug right now?
I think for the moment, yeah. Make sure you're subscribed over to the live stream channel. Make sure you're subscribed over here. We got so much stuff coming for you.
Yes. Remember, Second Wind is entirely creator-owned and independently funded. Check out our Patreon if you'd like to get behind and support what we're doing here.
Thursday, Design Delph.
Yes,
and
Design Delph
later this
Thursday.
week.
Yes.
Everything's coming out. Everything's coming up, Millhouse.
A couple more super chats came in while we were plugging. Let's quickly rattle them off. SVScore 2000 gives €5 to say at least the CO2 is dissolved in the liquid under pressure and only comes out later.
That was science. I don't know what that means. That is pure science.
Welcome to the Green Gang, Rich Theobald. Lydia Hollowmore gives $5 and says, just saw the announcement of the backdrop. So excited. I loved the In the Frame videos and was disappointed they didn't continue. Can't wait.
They are absolutely continuing. Don't you worry.
And then Camden Ninja gives $2 to say, Soda gives me a second wind. And then he says, slash button.
Well, I don't know what the slash button means, but that was good. Was that supposed to be like a patunch?
A second button? What?
No, I think that might have been like, I think Kamjit might have thought like a thing was popping up, like an emoji or something was going to pop up. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, anyway, that'll be it from us today then. I got to walk this very impatient dog and see if he's left me a little present in the office. See you all later then.
Bye. Thank you so much for producing, Eric. You did great. We did wonderful. I'm proud of all of us.
Thanks, Eric.